now that we've both established that we're smoking crack, let's try to meet somewhere in the middle. So in the course of owning Switchcars.com and being marginally interested in the world of internet e-commerce, I've also collected a few domain names for legitimate use and for speculation. And I've gotten offers on a few of them, but probably the most interesting was on a domain that I own, which is carsforstars.com. And I had originally purchased this domain early on into my venture into the car business. I had started Switchcars kind of as just a locating service and help with people buying cars, and well, I'll save you money and things like that, because I figured that was the best value proposition and really the only thing I had to offer as a young kid getting into the car business, because what else did I know? So once I started flipping allocations, there was a marked disparity between I'm going to save you money and I'm going to rip you off. So I couldn't really have the we're selling allocations for huge premiums on the same website as we'll try to save you money on your car purchase. It was a different client base, different business model and all that. So I bought carsforstars.com and had a fancy website made, and the allocations I had for sale up there, and it actually worked quite well. I was selling allocations for Range Rovers and Porsche GT3s and BMW M6s. I sold a couple of those when they came out, and M5s and all sorts of stuff like that. The website has been dormant for a number of years and just, redirects traffic to Switchcars because I got out of the allocation flipping business for a number of reasons and just kind of have everything under one roof now. A number of years ago, I got an email out of the blue and said, hey, would you sell carsforstars.com? And if so, for how much? I said, well, it's not really for sale, which was partially true, but also when you're trying to be a shrewd negotiator, then nothing is for sale. I don't know, make me an offer, I'll think about it. He goes, no, just tell me what you would take for it. Like, we're not playing that game. It's not for sale. You approached me, so it's your move. So he says, well, I'll give you $500. I'm like, nope. That's not even a realistic offer. For some domains it could be, but I thought this one had more value, and I thought it was kind of an insulting offer for somebody who had reached out of the blue. He said, okay, well, what would you sell this for? Now, he was not being a very shrewd negotiator. He was playing his cards at how badly he wanted it. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to actually look up and see who this guy is and why he wants it so badly. Now, initially I thought, man, if this guy offers me like $5,000, I'll take it. Like, who cares? I'm not using it anymore. That's a good offer. But then I started looking him up, and I found out that he was a young entrepreneur in the UK, and he owned carsforstars.co.uk and carsforstars.net. And his business was online booking for limo service. He had taken over the market with such authority that basically anyone who booked a hired car in the UK went through his service because he had bought up all of his competition. He had bought up hundreds, if not thousands, of domain names, and he'd actually been buying up limo companies as well. So not only did he own the bricks and mortar of a lot of these companies, the ones he didn't own, he was getting a cut off of the booking. And there was a recent article about how he had paid multiple six figures for this big group of domain names. He was very smart with SEO, or his team was at least, and they would create hundreds of websites with the right text and the right links, and create this big web of links. So there was tons and tons of websites to book limos through, but they were all his websites. And he was awarded some Entrepreneur of the Year thing, something or other. But it was very clear that he was spending big bucks to acquire all the domains possible. And while .com is seen as the domain to have in the US, it's not necessarily seen that way in the rest of the world because, every country has their own extension and all that. But, he had .net, he had .co. I knew he wanted .com because you're not anything if you don't have .com. So I'm like, all right, this guy really wants it. I'm just going to throw back an equally ridiculous offer to his $500 initial offer. So I countered at $325K. which, it's not worth that, but I knew that. I'm just like, okay, well, you got to start somewhere. So he got all pissed off and was like, that's a crazy offer. It's not worth that. You're dreaming. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But so is $500. So now that we've both established that we're smoking crack, let's try to meet somewhere in the middle. So he comes back at $5,000. I think I would have taken that if you started with that. But now that I've done all my research and found out how much this domain is potentially worth to you, I want to try for more. So I countered it, I don't know, maybe 50 or 75 grand, something like that. And in the course of discussions, I had reached out to my attorney and just said, hey, what advice do you have on negotiating on this, and a couple other items. And he kind of said, if he gives you like 10 grand, take it and walk. And that was kind of my feeling as well. I knew to get him there, I had to, given his aggressive negotiation from the get-go, I knew I had to play it back to him. The problem was he decided that he deserved to have this domain. And after I sent my second counter offer, he got very aggressive and just said, you know what? If you don't take it for $5,000, I'm going to sue you, and we're just going to own it because I own the trademark or copyright or whatever for that phrase. I don't think you realize who you're dealing with. Like, I'm no domain special attorney, whatever, but I know my way around the ICANN rules and stuff like that. And I had actually, in my research of him, I had looked up a lawsuit that he had filed against another company, and it was copyright infringement. Now, this other company was a direct competitor of his in the UK, and they were booking limo services, and they had literally copy and pasted the text from his website onto theirs. So obviously he had handily won that. But what he was trying to say was that he had copywritten the phrase Cars for Stars. I'm like, you can't copyright a phrase. That's not how that works. So he was trying to tell me that he was going to sue me for the domain and pointed me to this similar suit that he had done against this other company. I'm like, well, it's too bad for you. I've already done my research. That was an obvious copyright infringement, and this has nothing to do with copyright. This would be a trademark issue, if anything. And even with a trademark, it doesn't cross country lines and it doesn't cross industry lines. You're in the limo business, I'm in the car sales business, and we're in two different countries. So you can have your trademark over there. It doesn't affect me over here. Like, you're not Walmart. You don't have the rights to that name. You can't take it from me in court. And he just responded, you'd be surprised what our lawyers can do. And I'm just like, okay, sure. Sounds like a whole bunch of posturing. And I'm just like, listen, you're being ridiculous. It's going to cost you at least $25,000 to even start this lawsuit if you were actually going to file it, which I know you're not, because the people who yell the loudest never back it up. I'm like, why don't you just offer me that? He goes, no, we're going to take it from you. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, discussions are over. I'm not dealing with you. Like, I don't even want to sell you the domain name anymore. Like, if you had just been nice and offered me $5,000 up front, it would have been done. But you had to play the I've got bigger nuts than you card. I emailed him back maybe a few weeks later and just said, hey, listen, let's start this conversation over. Make me a reasonable counteroffer. But if the word attorney, lawyer, anything like that comes up, discussions are completely over. And he couldn't help himself. He immediately went back to, oh, well, look at this other guy. We had offered $5,000 and he didn't take it, and we just took it from him in court, and it only cost us $3,000. So ha ha ha, don't be like that guy. And I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. But whatever. He couldn't help himself. So I let it go, and I guess I was a little bit disappointed because at this point, I'd certainly rather have the $5,000 than a domain name that I'm not using anymore. But it is what it is. And he actually reached out to me, I think just like last year. He sent me another email and said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but a while ago I had expressed interest, or my team had expressed interest in this domain name. I was like, yeah, I remember you. And, we're still interested. Do you have a number that you'd sell it for? Give me $10,000. You can have it. trying not to go down the same road that we went before and just be reasonable. And, he's like, nah, it's not worth that. The most we could possibly pay is $2,500. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't interest me. Rarely do I sell something for less than I've previously been offered by the same person. So I still own carsforstars.com. While I'd like to say that my pride doesn't have a price, it absolutely does. And my price at the moment for anybody but the original guy who made me the offer is $4,000 if they could actually tell me what fun they had messing with the guy who didn't end up buying it.